Okay, and number 17, letter of support for North State Public Safety Training Center.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, as you know, Senator Nielsen and staff from this city and other cities have been working for some time to bring to Yuba City a North State Public Safety Training Center, which should include both police and fire training, a full-blown training center for both to meet all the requirements of post and all the requirements of the fire service. The senator is requesting letters of support for the conceptual project, which would be located in Yuba City at Station 4 on a piece of property the city owns behind Station 4 and would adequately house the facility. The state budget process is such that it will either be in the May revised budget or it will not, and we're obviously hoping it will. We will know for sure in May. If the project is funded through the state, then the immediate action that would need to be taken is to form a JPA, a Joint Powers Authority, which would immediately ask for commitments from any and all users of the facility, financial commitments, and we would shape that into a JPA and create the governing structure of the JPA, and would not start construction until such commitments were in place. And then we would also estimate what it would cost to operate the facility. There are several facilities in California and many facilities throughout the United States that are operating in the black. So we are obviously hopeful that we would also operate in the black. And we would get those commitments, get the JPA formed, and once all that is completed, then construction could commence at the facility. So at this point, it's just a conceptual support of the project from Yuba City. And since it's in our city, they're anxiously awaiting this letter of support, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, any public comment on the matter? All right.
Through the mayor
Yes,
and to the city manager, and it's encouraging to hear that the concepts of at least developing the JPA are being considered this time around. I'm still concerned. What would happen if the JPA, if the formation of the JPA became in jeopardy?
Well, then the decision would have to be made whether to move forward or not.
Okay, so in theory, I guess it's one of those cart before the horse or horse before the cart. Has there been any movement on developing the business plan to find out how much this is going to cost, and any kind of inclination from those that might be a member of the JPA about their willingness to support this as a JPA on a mid or long-term basis?
That's underway. We don't have specific financial commitments. We have commitments that they would spend their training dollars at this new facility rather than somewhere else. We can get more exact figures, and we can bring that to you as soon as that is completed.
I've previously indicated my support and will continue to support this. My significant concern continues to be the operability of this on the long term and the burden it could potentially place on the city of Yuba City. Have history operating a fire academy at Butte College, know the expense. This has been several years, but it's expensive. Mm-hmm. And I'm, again, supportive of the project, but concerned, and rightfully so, about the financial impact it could have on us. I don't think it's fair to say, hey, look, we're going to avoid training costs, and that's going to subsidize the operational and maintenance costs of the facility. I've heard that mentioned in public meetings. That's not going to cover it, in my opinion. Lastly, the last paragraph of the letter, I would suggest perhaps we change the language. It says, my business is in full support of the proposed North State Public Safety Training Center. I believe that should say our city.
No, I did catch that. I thought we changed it before we put together the packet. I did see that. We'll change that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Through the mayor. I'm in consensus with you, Vice Mayor. I support the entire concept. I think it's a great opportunity to have a training center in Yuba City. I am concerned about the operational cost of it. I have brought this up to you in our conversations, and it would be helpful to know the potential size of this facility if it were to be built, given us the opportunity to have some sort of projected operational cost. So if it's 15,000 square feet or whatever, what is the size of the type of facility that we're considering in our area? Are there other facilities alike to that and it would cost similar to? What does it cost that? What does it cost other cities to do this?
Well, there are several facilities in California that are operating in the black right now. They have very different operating costs because they have very different sort of services they provide, and they have a different number of participating agencies. So we're trying to flush that out, but we will get something back to the council to consider in terms of what that might look like.
Thank you.
It's a follow-up question. Who's taking the burden of developing this operational plan? Is this a multi-jurisdictional thing, or is this falling in the lap of us?
Well,
Yuba City, as far as the operational and maintenance projections.
At the moment, it's mostly on the city of Yuba City staff. We also have a consultant who has worked pro bono this entire time, has never charged us. He's an expert in these facilities throughout the United States. I do think it's time that we need to pay him and really bring him on to do the heavy lifting. He's an expert in what these costs are. And it's probably time to, get that work product from him. He can tell us, he can show us everything that's out there. And then we can decide based on the plan, which sits at $15 million right now. So we know what we would provide in that phasing of the project. So we can now figure out, okay, if we build these particular things for 15 million, we can, from that, figure out the operating costs. I think we could do a pretty good job of that.
Okay, I think I heard you say we, meaning
it's mostly the city at this point.
I would hope before we spend any money on a consultant to design an operational plan or whatever else, that comes to ours for approval.
Of course, it will come back to the council. Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
I remember the presentation last year. It was a wonderful presentation. They got everything there. If it could probably be given again, because it's all on a computer, we could watch it again. Vice Mayor Baumgarten made a mention. When we bought the property on Olear and Franklin, we borrowed $1 million out of our enterprise fund. By any chance, when we do all this, can that enterprise fund be reimbursed before we move on with this? That way we're not in any more inconvenience than what we have. We borrowed it, we need to pay it back so we can help our infrastructure and stuff in our community. Can that be done? That's part of the plan.
Well,
You can say yes, no.
I wasn't here when all that happened, so
Right.
I'd really have to talk to staff to figure out what decisions were made and why, and then figure out, it'd be a pretty heavy lift to pay it back, and it would have to be over a period of time.
I think that we need to, it was a loan, and if we're getting this money and we're up going to be doing all this anyway, I think we need to reimburse our enterprise fund. That way it can help us and help the citizens. We don't have to raise water rates in the future and, make our community better and our infrastructure. It's just a comment, just see what happens here in the future. Future comments is all it is. I'd like to kind of put that out there though, please.
Through the mayor, Councilman Cardozo raises an excellent point that, quite frankly, I'd forgotten about during this current discussion. Is yes, that the 10 acres that was purchased, and Ms. Langley probably has more information about the financing piece that it continues to exist. But yes, Councilman Cardozo is correct. There was money borrowed from other funds to purchase that project. It was initially going to be potentially either water storage tanks, if I remember correctly, or even an outside corp yard.
Secondary corporation yard, yes, that was brought up.
Appreciate you bringing that back up.
Thank you.
Through the mayor. When this project originally came before us last year, all my fellow colleagues are right on point. We really had the cart before the horse last year, asking for a lot of things without an ounce of knowledge of what was going on or the funding mechanisms. So the first ask that I have is, as we go through this council, and I understand how it's going to go through the senator's office and the budgetary process, and it's a lot of hurry up and wait, and then you're scrambling and you're waiting. I get that. But we need to be very well informed with what the operational costs are going to be, what the tentative funding is, dealing with loans that we have for the land that was purchased. And the only other question that I have, and Chief Landon, you might be able to answer this because our new fire chief's only been with us, actually sworn in about 3 hours ago, but this is the same training facility that Mr. Fuller presented to us, to myself, went through everything in his. It would be fire and police and a training facility that was going to be kind of done in phases. They originally asked for like 24. It got scaled back to about 15. But nothing's changed conceptually that you know of on the facility. Would that be correct, Chief? Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Through the mayor,
Yes.
if I can make one clarification on the record. Our rates for enterprise funds are set by the cost of providing services, and loans should not be affected, will affect utility rates or other sorts of rates.
Well, then I'm just saying, helping our infrastructure, then I'll just go with infrastructure then.
Excellent. I just wanted
There
to
you go.
make that
Okay.
for the record. So
Thank you,
there
sir.
wouldn't be a misunderstanding out there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So we're just basically looking for a conceptual authorization, a letter of support for the development. So that's where we are today. I too reiterate the fact that we do need to have a solid finance plan, or at least a conceptualized finance plan, given the fact if we have the 15 million, this is what we're going to build. This is the anticipated cost of doing it. This is the services we can provide, what we can charge. And then, I wouldn't expect any other municipality to have any binding agreement in place so early in the process, but at least a feel for the appetite for participation so we can fund this thing. It's going to be a great thing. Of course, I fully support it, but we do have the responsibility of making sure we're not going to go off a cliff financially trying to keep it up. So, that being said, anybody
Through the mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a motion, a letter of support for the North State Public Safety Training Center. Authorize the mayor to sign a letter of the support for the development of a regional public safety training center in Yuba City to benefit the North State first responders.
Second.
All those in favor of the letter of support?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.